Tua Tagovailoa. Tua Tagovailoa. Oh, you're not recording, right? Tagovailoa.
You said it right.
Tagovailoa. Yeah, I did say it right. All right, today we're going to talk about Tua Tagovailoa. Basically, in any type of syndesmosis disruption, you are trying to provide a substitute for the torn internal ligaments. But the main point is it stabilizes the ligament and it allows it to heal. Takes 4 to 6 weeks to heal. 4 to 6 weeks to heal. 4 to 6 weeks to heal. So Tua had an ankle injury. You guys saw the video. Here it is, right here. We're gonna line it up. He comes down, gets tackled, boom. You can see, zoom in right there. You can see right there he got his ankle and boom. You saw that external rotation. So he pronated, externally rotated, and that took out his syndesmosis. So it's basically a syndesmosis injury. It's called a high ankle sprain because you don't injure the deltoid and fibular, the lateral and medial ankle-sided ligaments. They're actually between the two bones of the tibia and the fibula. So he planted his foot, it went out, and when it went out, it basically pushed that out. And so this is the syndesmosis. Watch it again. He gets here, he pronates, and then the force of the talus and the foot and ankle basically do this. It basically pushes this out, okay? And that is your syndesmosis. And that's a high ankle sprain, as opposed to the ligaments here, the calcaneofibular, anterior-talofibular, and the deltoid ligament. It's higher up. It's actually above the actual ankle joint, so it's there, okay? That's a high ankle sprain. So what do you do for that? And you guys already heard about the tightrope. What is a tightrope? But the reason it's called a tightrope because it's literally a tightrope holding something tightly. Yeah, but it sounds good, right? So let me show you what it is. So we got this all teed up, and this is an Arthrex implant. Kudos to Arthrex. Not sponsored by Arthrex, but I'm showing you this just so you know exactly what it is. You can go to your website and the link down below and take a look, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna tee this up, and you can see you're basically taking, after a drill hole, you poke a needle through, past this rope which has a button on it, and after you do this, you're basically pulling it through and then you cinch it right up, okay? And that basically allows you to go through this whole, now sometimes you do it through an ankle fracture. I'm gonna basically show this section right here. And in this part, you're pulling, you're tugging, you toggle it back and forth because it's a little button. And once you have it, then you pull it cinch. Now he's not gonna end up with a plate. He didn't have a fracture from what I hear, but basically you're lining it up in such a manner that you go straight through and you cinch it right in. And so what you see here is, ignore the plate, okay? You basically have just the tightrope. Video's not working for me. So basically he had the tightrope procedure, which is basically a type of syndesmosis repair. Now, this is not any endorsement by any means of an Arthrex procedure or the company by any means. It was an example of a type of syndesmosis disruption. I use the syndesmosis repair by Arthrex, but I use many different types of syndesmosis techniques, and it all depends on the indications and the technique that's used. So I use the Arthrex example here simply to provide you some further information about what Tua had done. And there are different ways of doing it. But basically, in any type of syndesmosis disruption, you are trying to provide a substitute for the torn internal ligaments. And the reason for that is getting inside and around that joint to actually stabilize the joint is not something that you can do with repair techniques currently. And most of the times those ligaments are so small that just trying to repair the ligaments themselves does not work. So you need some type of external buttress and stabilization, essentially like a reconstruction, to hold the bones together to allow the ligaments to heal, because just repairing the ligaments is not going to work. So it's an indirect fixation technique for an injury to the syndesmosis. It's not a repair of the ligaments. And that needs to be clarified, because a tightrope is an indirect stabilization. And whether you use a screw, whether you use a tightrope, or any other of the numerous techniques out there for syndesmosis repair, it's indirect stabilization of the joint to allow the ligaments to heal. But the main point is it stabilizes the ligament and it allows it to heal. It takes 4 to 6 weeks to heal.
He will be non-weight bearing for several days, and then he'll be able to come back as his rehab allows him. So we're hopeful that, in a 10-day period, he'll be, back being able to do pretty active type rehab. And
2 weeks realistic?
He's putting himself at risk. Let me just double check. I think what is the, actually this will be good just for pure nerds, what is the failure stiffness of tight rope.
Oh, like if it doesn't stay taut?
Right.
Wow.
Maximum torque to failure between the 28 Newton meters and the 1. Yeah, like just totally nerding it up is great. That's for you, Mo. Mo is Mo Bandari. Yeah. Yeah. He's probably the most brilliant orthopedic surgeon that is the numbers geek that I know. 10th cycles, intact levels with general decrease. So after 10 cycles, so 10 cycles means he can only twist 10 times. Oh, this doesn't tell you exactly when to return to play, but it tells you it was basically looking at the different stiffness characteristics with different motion, rotation, and torque and resistance to failure modes by different constructs. And so this is what they did. They basically did a single tightrope, double tightrope, and then either parallel or divergent. So meaning that you put a screw or tightrope like this, you put them, the tightrope, 2 tightropes parallel, or you put them divergent. And in the end, without getting into the data, which you can read, it was published in 2018 by Parker et al. And in that paper, what they showed was that the failure or the amount of stability actually changes after 10 cycles. What does that mean? That means that you can probably be twisting 10 times before it stretches enough to make a difference. So after that, they do it for 500 or 1,000 cycles, and and this is just my interpretation of what I see in the data. But what it tells me is that after stability, it changes. The stability changes after 10 cycles, and it's similar across the board for all of these. So if you push this and torque it too much, after 10 cycles, is it more risk to failure? Maybe. It might be a little bit looser? Maybe. So the important thing is how many games will Tua play before he could stretch that repair, before he could put that repair at risk. I'm being told, from my understanding, is that he's going to return to play in 2 weeks. Personally, that's too early because you have to give the ligaments a chance to heal. But the opinions of orthopedic surgeons across the country vary, and that is perfectly acceptable. He is an athlete, probably a super athlete. He probably heals very well. And so to bring him back into play at 2 weeks may seem early, maybe not. So I don't have a crystal ball, but he gets 2 weeks off, misses 2 games. Then he plays 4 games and then gets 4 weeks off. I don't know. I don't bet. I don't gamble. And this is not about gambling. But if I were to think in terms of evidence and outcomes, personally, if this were a patient of mine, I would highly recommend he not play